In Nepal, a flood can begin 4 vertical kilometers above the people it will reach. At the summit, cloud races across permanent ice and black rock. Far below, muddy water surges past homes beside the Bagmati River. Between these frames lies the story of the day Nepal flooded. The connection is gravity acting across one of Earth's steepest inhabited landscapes. Water gathers in ice, cloud, and saturated slopes, then moves relentlessly downward. To understand the catastrophe below, we must begin at the highest point. Everest stands within a chain containing 8 of the world's 14 highest mountains. To the west, Annapurna rises above deep, monsoon-fed valleys. From the air, these summits appear remote from every crowded street. But follow a glacier downhill, and that distance begins to collapse. Ice becomes meltwater, and meltwater enters channels cut through loose rock. Those channels converge near villages, occupying the valley's scarce level ground. What appears isolated is already connected by moving water, and the valley's shape reveals what happens next. A narrow gorge gives rising water little room to spread safely. The current accelerates around boulders and attacks roads built beside the river. Every bridge and settlement depends on the channel remaining within familiar limits, but enough water can erase those limits within hours. The question follows the valley downward. What happens when a flood begins 4 vertical kilometers above the people it will reach? The answer begins on a bridge crowded with people who came for the mountains. A high-altitude suspension bridge sways above a cold, fast river. International hikers cross in bright jackets with heavy packs. Beside them, Nepalese guides watch the footing and the changing sky. Porters carry food, fuel, and bedding toward lodges farther up the trail. For a visitor, this crossing is an adventure and a photograph. For the valley, it is part of a working supply line. What else travels across these cables besides people? Income moves with every trekker who reaches the next lodge. Shopkeepers sell rain covers, gloves, food, and bottled water beside the trail. Families prepare rooms, repair roofs, and wait for arriving groups. Porters return across the bridge carrying wages toward home. Its structure is steel and timber, but its true load is economic. And that load depends entirely on access. A cancelled trek empties rooms and leaves stocked kitchens without customers. A grounded flight separates guides from clients waiting beyond the mountains. A washed-out path stops supplies as surely as it stops tourists. The adventure economy looks permanent until the monsoon closes its routes. That leaves another question waiting beyond the bridge. Who pays when the trekking trails go silent? The answer will emerge after the water reaches these paths. First, the camera follows the river toward its coldest source. At the valley's head, fractured glacier ice meets dark, exposed moraine. Meltwater emerges beneath it, cloudy with finely ground stone. Drops gather into a stream crossing ground that older ice once covered. Here, retreat is a visible distance between living ice and abandoned rock. What has opened this widening space? Rising temperatures disrupt the balance between snowfall and seasonal melting. When loss outpaces replacement, the glacier thins and withdraws upslope. Fresh rock appears along its margins, loose and sharply broken. Water begins pooling between the remaining ice and surrounding debris. Some pools drain, while others expand into high-altitude lakes. Retreating ice can therefore leave more than empty ground behind. What replaces it can create a different kind of danger. A glacial lake may be held back by moraine, not engineered concrete. Moraine is a jumble of boulders, gravel, sediment, and sometimes buried ice. Seepage can carve through it as hidden ice melts. Rockfall, or falling ice, can send waves toward the barrier's lowest edge. Millions of tons of water may press toward those weaknesses. If the barrier fails, what follows is sudden and concentrated. The release surge can collect boulders, sediment, and timber while descending. This is a glacial lake outburst flood, known as a GLOF. Its power increases inside valleys that prevent the water from spreading. Bridges and trails may receive little warning before the front arrives. But one distinction must remain clear before this story continues. Did every destructive flood below begin with a lake breaking open? No. A GLOF is a specific hazard, not a name for every Himalayan flood. This lake shows what warming can store high in the mountains. It does not prove that such a rupture caused the disaster ahead. The documented event points toward a broader force covering whole catchments. Still, changing ice remains part of the same climate warning. Were the glaciers the trigger or the warning? The answer depends on separating one possible mechanism from the flood's actual sequence. That sequence begins when ordinary glacier runoff meets extraordinary rain. The moraine-dammed lake feeds a steep channel below its outlet. Rain begins striking the lake, the ridge, and every exposed slope. The ground receives water from above while the glacier continues melting. A cloudburst can concentrate intense rain over one steep catchment. Larger monsoon systems can keep rivers rising after one burst passes. The danger comes from these sources overlapping across elevation. What does that overlap look like downstream? Side gullies begin pouring into the glacier-fed channel. One stream becomes several, and several become a river. Saturated soil releases sediment that turns the water opaque brown. Loose stones and branches join the current from failing banks. No single drop contains the catastrophe. Its scale appears when each source joins the next. That is how local rainfall becomes a basin-wide threat. Stored lake water and continuous rain can both produce violent floods, but they are related hazards, not interchangeable explanations. A GLOF releases stored water through a failed barrier. Continuous monsoon rain loads many slopes and tributaries at once. The flood day ahead develops through relentless rain and converging runoff. The lake remains intact as the whole mountainside begins to drain. And that distinction makes the approaching crisis even larger. Why is Nepal an early warning system for the rest of the planet? The answer begins with what happens when this water descends. Rain falls continuously across a steep mountain tributary. The channel rises around boulders that stood dry hours earlier. Temporary waterfalls appear across both saturated slopes. Each delivers water, soil, and loose stone into the current. There is no single explosion marking the disaster's beginning. There is only accumulation, repeated across countless channels. When does an ordinary river become a threat? The change comes when its banks can no longer contain the flow. Water crosses a valley road and turns asphalt into another channel. Upstream, a saturated slope releases mud into the current. Branches rotate through brown water and approach a bridge. The first impact transfers the storm's force into infrastructure. What happens when debris begins collecting there? More timber tightens around the pier and obstructs the current. Water piles against it, then attacks the softer bank beside the approach. The bridge may survive, while the road connecting it disappears. Failure advances through erosion, not theatrical collapse. Downstream, swollen tributaries enter larger river systems. Now the disaster grows beyond any single village's view. Runoff moves toward major basins, including the Saptakoshi and Bagmati. These are connected networks, not isolated channels. Rain falling far apart can eventually enter the same main river. That convergence raises water far from the storm's highest slopes. People downstream cannot see every source approaching them. The first warning may be the river's roar beneath the rain. Water crosses fields, separating homes from the channel. Footpaths vanish beneath current and scattered debris. Families move toward higher floors or steeper ground. But saturated slopes can fail and block the safest trail. Villagers become trapped between rising water and unstable mountainsides. Rescuers must judge both hazards before approaching. The terrain accelerating the flood also restricts the response. As the river descends, buildings occupy more of the valley floor. Water arriving from near 4,000 meters merges into one muddy force. Separate mountain streams disappear inside the widening current. And in Kathmandu, the Bagmati is about to cross its boundary. The swollen Bagmati overtops into a river-edge neighborhood. Water fills lanes between brick walls and reinforced concrete buildings. A parked vehicle shifts as the current deepens around its wheels. Residents watch doorsteps disappear beneath opaque water. The mountain has reached the city through the river connecting them. So what does that distant descent mean here? What happens when a flood begins 4 vertical kilometers above the people it will reach? The answer appears at doors, roads, bridges, and ground floor rooms. Water gathered over hours can arrive downstream as a rapid rise. People below experience the final convergence, not every tributary behind it. That is the truth concealed inside the title. But it also corrects a dangerous simplification. The day Nepal flooded was not one giant wave crossing the country. It was a connected crisis across rivers, slopes, roads, and neighborhoods. Different places faced rain, runoff, erosion, and landslides in different combinations. The shared protagonist was the watershed gathering everything downhill. Were the glaciers the trigger or the warning? For this event, continuous rainfall and converging runoff drive the documented deluge. Glacier retreat remains evidence of warming pressure high above. It also creates separate GLOF risks Nepal must confront. But a potential hazard cannot become a cause without evidence. The broader reality is more unsettling. A whole basin can become dangerous without one frozen barrier failing. Kathmandu shows the result at human scale. Responders enter the current with ropes secured behind them. Every step is slow because opaque water conceals drains and broken pavement. Electrical equipment adds danger beyond the visible current. A neighborhood becomes a sequence of uncertain crossings. Then receding water begins exposing damage beyond the riverbank. A Nepalese highway bridge ends above a scoured approach road. Responders study the gap from the surviving asphalt. Across it, vehicles and residents wait without a safe crossing. One damaged point now threatens an entire corridor. What disappears when this route is cut? Food, fuel, medicine, rescue teams, and repair lose their direct route. An ambulance, forced to turn back, becomes part of the disaster. A village beyond the gap becomes harder to reach and assess. Power grids and hydroelectric facilities also suffer damage and disruption. Pumps, communications, refrigeration, and workshops can stop together. The damage spreads through systems the camera cannot follow in one shot. Its human scale appears in the people who never returned. More than 200 lives were lost. The number belongs to families and communities left with empty places. Entire neighborhoods were swallowed by water and mud. Vital transport routes were severed across the damaged landscape. Farmland emerged beneath thick sediment and scattered debris. For vulnerable households, livelihood loss began within hours, and the road to market might be gone beyond the next bend. Foreign hikers were also trapped where landslides erased trekking routes. Their guides inspected unstable slopes and rejected dangerous crossings. A rescue helicopter could approach only when cloud and visibility permitted. Elsewhere, residents opened buildings as temporary shelters. The rescue network formed from local judgment and whatever access remained. Its economic consequences became clearest in silent trekking hubs. Inside a rain-darkened Pokhara lodge, tables wait for absent guests. No boots crowd the doorway, and no wet jackets hang near the stove. The silence represents income that has stopped moving. Who absorbs that loss first? Who pays when the trekking trails go silent? Guides lose clients who cannot reach the route. Porters have no loads to carry and no wages to bring home. Lodge owners lose bookings, while stocked kitchens serve almost nobody. Families supplying food, fuel, transport, and repairs also lose demand. A cancelled journey spreads through an entire mountain economy. Visitors eventually leave, but local households remain with the loss. At makeshift shelters, residents distribute blankets and hot drinks. Guides translate instructions and identify safer ground. Porters carry emergency food where vehicles cannot travel. When conditions clear, helicopters evacuate hikers from isolated routes. These actions are the practical machinery keeping visitors alive. They also reveal who truly supports Nepal's tourism economy. A lodge becomes a shelter instead of a business. A porter carries relief food instead of expedition equipment. A guide turns back from danger and accepts the lost income. Tourism recovers only if these communities recover first, but trails, bridges, airports, and confidence cannot return overnight. The flood has moved from water into the future. That future begins beside a washed-out road at dawn. Morning light reaches volunteers placing stone into the damaged road. Mist remains over wet slopes as workers reinforce the unstable edge. One person carries stone while another cuts a drainage channel. They restore one passable section at a time. What makes this local repair a global warning? Nepal produces less than 0.1% of global greenhouse emissions. Yet steep terrain concentrates climate consequences with exceptional speed. Ice responds to warming high above. Monsoon water gathers across saturated catchments. Gravity delivers danger toward roads, fields, and homes. Responsibility is dispersed globally, while exposure remains brutally local. That imbalance answers the question planted beside the glacial lake. Why is Nepal an early warning system for the rest of the planet? Because its vertical landscape compresses climate pressure and human consequence into one view. Changing ice stands above rivers carrying monsoon runoff. Damaged roads lie beside communities that depend upon them. Nepal reveals how hazards combine before infrastructure can absorb them. The warning is not that every country will flood like Nepal. It is that climate impacts follow geography, while emissions ignore borders. The volunteers continue because warning alone cannot reopen the road. Stone reinforces the ground that runoff carried away. A drainage trench prepares the surface for the next rain. Resilience here is physical, repetitive, and unfinished. It cannot erase the dead or instantly restore lost livelihoods, but it keeps isolation from becoming permanent. Now the camera rises above their work. Road, settlement, river, and mountain enter one continuous frame. The Glacier story has become a watershed story. Climate pressure high above became human and economic loss below. The day Nepal flooded was one vertical chain of consequences. Water moved through tributaries toward the Saptakoshi and Bagmati basins. It struck bridges, highways, hydropower systems, farmland, and city streets. Then it entered shelters, empty lodges, and household budgets. The final frame belongs to those repairing what the water connected. These mountains have always sent water downhill. What has changed is the heat stored in the ice, the violence held in the rain, and the number of lives waiting below. Nepal did little to warm the world. Yet here, the world's warning arrived first.